a book called Satan and Lucifer Decoded. And I talk about the duality of Satan and Lucifer and how it's like white magic, black magic, left hand, right hand magic, where Satan's deliberately created a duality to confuse people so they don't have any problem following Lucifer, who even Luciferians admit is Satan. But because of this duality he's created, and it's so ubiquitous in our society, many Christians are deceived. Good example is the Illuminati. They have the black and white checkered tile.
Right.
Well, that's not representative of Jesus and Satan. That's more their yin and yang. The black and white represents the Prince of Darkness and the Prince of Light. And nowhere in there is there a comparison or discussion with Jesus Christ. And so, consequently, this duality did our evangelism in the 21st century. It's one of the reasons why Christians need to understand this so they can be more effective with the Word of God in reaching people for Christ.
Wow. What we had on David, do you know David Lowe, who wrote Deconstructing Lucifer?
No, I don't know him.
Are you using his book at all as a reference for your book that you're writing about Lucifer?
No, I'm not using anybody's book.
Wow. Wow. Anyway, he wrote a good book. He's going to future Congress, too. And just for your information, for the audience's information, he's been a guest on a couple different times. His name's David Lowe, L-O-W-E, and he wrote Deconstructing Lucifer. And he talks about how Satan isn't really Lucifer and the bright morning star and all that kind of stuff. It's a good reference book, because we don't know, as Christians, you're so right, we don't know really who Satan, Lucifer is. And we really don't. We really don't, Chris. Christians,
Right, no,
the
church is really out to lunch on this particular issue.
Go ahead. You want to fill us in a little bit about who Satan is and stuff? Let's do that.
We talked before about the Galactic Federation of Light, and this is a cult, and they believe that Lucifer is the head of their organization.
Yes.
They're called the Council of Eight, but Lucifer, Sananda, who's supposed to be, quote, Jesus Christ, and others are there. But here's the problem with the Luciferian concept, is that what people think is they're worshiping the Prince of Light. And the truth is that Jesus Christ is the light of the world. And Lucifer is only a prince of light, and as Satan is the prince of darkness. But they're the same entity. And the most negative part here is that Lucifer is an attempt to deceive good people into believing that there is a good side and a bad side. And so they're just associating with the good side. It's kind of like white magic and black magic, where some Wicca, they will say that they only do white magic, or some Satanists will say, well, they only do the right-hand path or the left-hand path of magic. But these are all just schemes of the devil, and the idea is to confuse people so they don't know what's really going on. But a duck is a duck. If it quacks, if it waddles, it's a duck. And so when you're looking at this duality that's created in this image of Lucifer and Satan, like, well, it's okay to hang with Lucifer because he's a good guy, but, you know, the other guy, he's the Prince of Darkness. He's the bad guy. Well, it's just all presentation. It's all just marketing. And so many Christians are confused by it. And you can see this in this whole approach by the Galactic Federation of Light. They keep talking about they're here now, they're going to have full disclosure, and we're all going to go to the fifth dimension, the fifth element. Our mind is going to be expanded. We're going to have a greater level of consciousness and all this stuff. But see, nowhere in any of this is there discussion about sin or forgiveness. There's no talk about immortality that's promised by Jesus Christ when he returns for his church. Instead, they talk about a type of immortality where transhumanism and transmigration of personalities to these living cyborg units, so that you now have a new form of immortality, but you're really just the old sinful nature person and personality trapped in an immortal cyborg.
Wow. Is that what the Bible means, Pastor Chris, when it says, in Revelation, I don't know, but you want to die, but you can't? What's that all about?
Well, yeah, that's a really good indication, because it's not even the end of the age yet, and yet these groups are right out front talking to you about how they can now, through technology, take your personality and transfer it into a new body, or better yet, a combination human cyborg, so that you can live forever. But you're going to live forever in sin.
How many people are involved in this Galactic Federation?
Well, I've been to their website, it's part of my book on Satan and Lucifer Decoded, and that it's amazing how every week,
wow,
2 or 3 of these galactic representatives channel aliens, and they do a video.
Oh my
God! If you go to YouTube, you can, yeah, really, you can go to YouTube and just type in Galactic Federation, and almost there's new downloads. Now, let me tell you about that. There's nothing new about these guys. These are channelers. They don't come like, when the angels came to announce Jesus' birth, it talks about the angels appeared to the shepherds, and they talked to them. They told them that, that on this day a child is born. But with these alien channelers, you never see an alien. There are several ways they can do this, but mostly they just either sit down and they're possessed by this alien spirit, and they begin to talk and dictate, and this is where they either type it up or they actually do a video on YouTube, and what you're listening to is a computer voice of the actual channeling of alien being through a human being. Yeah, and it's right on, it's federationoflight.com. I mean, it's not hard to find or anything.
Now Brian's really gonna, when he comes home, he's gonna think I really lost my mind now, because I get into this. You know how I'm the one. He's more straight, and I'm more into the cool alien stuff. He's really gonna think I lost my cookies on this one, the Galactic Federation of Light.
Monique, I wouldn't apologize too much. It's even from the beginning, Satan picked on women, because the reality is that the last thing God made before He said it's finished was a woman. And in my experience, they oftentimes have a much higher level of spirituality and discernment. And there are people there. I talk to women all the time that, like you, they're worried about this stuff. They're concerned about it. They don't just sweep it under the rug and pretend like, oh, everything's fine. Well,
that's what Brian does. Yeah, exactly. When I get into this crazy stuff, I'm like, Brian, you need to know this. I'm serious. And then I pull him into it, obviously, by getting on guests, and he's got to learn about it, because he's more of a mainstream. If it wasn't for me, Chris, I'm serious, he'd be one of those Christians that goes to church and just sings in a choir. But, since we're learning about, no, really, he would be, because he loves it. The Bible he loves, and he always loves the Psalms and the real pretty stuff. He's always got highlighted. And I got highlighted all this Prince of Darkness stuff and Luciferian stuff, My whole Bible's totally different than his. The highlighting part is totally different.
So do I.
Yeah. I mean,
would you like a scripture that'll blow his mind?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay, write this down. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 17.
Okay.
Okay? And it says, they sacrifice unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came down recently, whom your fathers feared not. And when you translate this into the Hebrew, what it says is here that these devils, the word for devils here is shed, and it's pronounced shade in English. These are the shades that they refer to. And in the Hebrew, it's a shin and a dalat. And what it means is this is a fiery path. Okay? And then it says shade Elohim. So when, like the Galactic Federation, or take the Realians, they say they're the Elohim that created us, and now they're back, right?
Right.
Well, they are the shade Elohim, but they didn't create us. God makes it very clear that He is the creator, a God, Elohim, that created us, who created man and woman, not these aliens that came down. And so there's nothing new under the sun. Throughout the Bible, I can walk you through the Bible and show you scripture after scripture where these shady Elohim appeared over time. And eventually, God just kicked them off the planet. That's what the whole flood was about. And Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the second coming of the Son of Man. So the shady Elohim are back. And they're posing as the Galactic Federation, the Realians, the Council of Eight, the Council of 12. The list is endless. And they are here to try and pull off the biggest coup in the history of creation, and that's to steal the body of Christ.
Wow. How do you know all that? Do you know Hebrew?
Yeah, Hebrew and Greek and a lot of other languages. I was born on Guam, the Marianas.
Yeah.
And my dad interpreter for the Japanese war trials. So I grew up in a household where
cool.
They spoke English and Japanese and Camargue and Tagalog, and then studied Spanish and French. And I did, like, when I was a computer teacher, I taught 32 different computer languages. And I invented the word processor in the Polynesian language and dialect. So I love languages. It's my hobby. But I don't get into it to the point where you get sick of it. And I love the Hebrew, but I love even more the ancient Hebrew, which was pictograms. Because when you read Jesus' name, like Yeshua or Yasha, because his mother didn't call him Yeshua. His mother, like, I'm Christopher, my mom always called me Chris. And so Mary called Jesus Yasha. And when you look at the Hebrew lettering for Yasha, it's look at the fiery hand.
Wow.
It's so beautiful. That's what my whole book on Yasha and the Secret of the Great Pyramid is all about. And I take some very important words like the word creator, which, when you're talking about, if you're going to tell me you're the Realians and you're the Elohim in the Bible, influential, and yet not the God. Creator. Spoken into language. Anytime we have
Know that you're event. Or
the words of showed me.
Wow.
Perry. You did showing there's Rowan uh, they're Americans got their right. Now look at it like this. 40 years is
Oh
the number of years they
no.
wandered in the wilderness. And why did they wander? Because they doubted. And so God just made them walk around in circles in the desert till that generation died off. And you look around, you look at Margaret Sanger, who started the whole situation. It was called the Negro Project. And she believed in getting rid of the inferior races. And in order to get the black pastors on board, they changed the name from the Negro Project to Planned Parenthood. And this is all documented. Just do Margaret Sanger on Wikipedia. Anyways, Margaret Sanger, Shirley Chisholm, all these leaders that started abortion through Roe versus Wade, they've all died off, except for Roe. She has her own name separate, but it was called Roe versus Wade, and she has a testimony on YouTube that says that her two lawyers talked her into lying and saying she was raped. And that's how they got Roe versus Wade passed, over a lie.
Wow.
Right. And then Doe was passed simultaneously the same day, and that made abortion legal to the third trimester. And that's where we get President Obama, who believes in partial birth abortion, and they just bring the baby's head out of the vagina and snip the back of the neck and kill it.
God.
We've had 40 years of this now. And believe me, God is sick of it. So you're watching America. We had 50 states this week start petitions to secede from the Union. The last time this happened was under Abraham Lincoln. They only had 7 states that seceded and became the Confederate States, and it caused a civil war. Imagine, about 11-7, some of them in the last minute backed out. But looking like the 7 states formed the original Confederate States and under Lee. And that caused a civil war, which killed, 500,000 men. Now we've got 50 states trying to secede from the Union. The only state that can't secede is D.C., because it's not a state. And so what'll happen, all that national debt and everything will fall on top of D.C. And all these people, the 47% that never worked, that always live on the dole, they're going to be out there all by themselves, while the other 53% that pay all the taxes and do all the work are going to move to sanctuary states like Florida and Texas and the others that actually follow through and secede. And there's going to be incredible prosperity in those states, like Florida. Now, I wanted to mention that because I noticed in your email you were wondering about where to go, what to do. Should you go to Ecuador? Should you go to Costa Rica? Should you go to New Zealand?
Right.
You should stay in Florida. Florida is the best place. That's why I moved here. And like next Saturday, I take a class on foraging edible plants. I live on the lake, and in my property, we went out the other day with just an edible plant book, and there were so many identifiable edible plants, you would have to just to walk around with a fork in your hand to even begin to touch it all. It's amazing. And so, I even put on my Facebook books I recommend. for foraging edible plants here in Florida. But let's talk about solar. I got my own solar trailer because if you put your solar on a trailer, you don't need a permit. And I can completely light my house, and I can even, in an event of a power shortage, I can run my well for at least 5 minutes and pump out all the water I need for drinking and washing for a day. Okay, in addition, I'm on the lake. I just filed for a permit for wind power. And $400, I bought a 400-watt wind plant that produced a couple of kilobytes a day when I only use 30 kilobytes a month.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You know what we did, Chris?
Yes,
can you still hear me? Because I turned down my speaker,
I
and
can hear you.
I want to know if you can still hear me.
Yeah, I know what you did. You sold your house.
Well, no. Besides that, we bought these solar panels from, I'm not going to say the company. And, okay I'm going to say the company. It has the word science in it. But anyway, I bought these solar panels because the way they described them is it would help do your house during a storm and during all this stuff. And we spent major bucks. It was like $5,000. You know what, Chris?
Wow.
It lights up a light bulb for about 10 minutes. That's it. $4,000 we spent on these stupid solar panels, and all it does, I'm serious, it lights up a light bulb for like 12 hours. We called the people and we said there must be a mistake because you said in your advertising that, if a storm goes out, you can still take your showers and wash your clothes and vacuum real fast and, do your for, at least a half hour. Yeah. That's as much storage as it emits. They lied. I mean, all it does is a light bulb. Okay. It's awful.
Let me see if I can help you. Okay? So, how many batteries do you have in your battery array?
At my battery of what?
Your batteries. How many batteries do you have to collect your solar power?
Oh, I don't know. It's a big battery. It just came with two solar.
Is it just one battery?
I think it's actually two put in there. It's a big solar thing that rolls around. I think it's got maybe one or two big old batteries.
Okay, let me go on here. First of all, you need to get 12-volt appliances, okay? For example, when I want to light up my backyard, I don't use the electricity coming through the power company. I go down to Advanced Auto Parts. I get a head beam, and I take two wires and connect it to my batteries and hook it on the back of the lamp, and I can light up my whole backyard either on regular beam or high beam. So I can actually light up my whole house with just 12-volt lights, okay? Now, in addition, I went down to Flying J, which is where the truckers stop. I've got a solar 12-volt grill. I got a 12-volt crock pot. I got a 12-volt coffee pot. I've got 12-volt refrigerator. I bought all these things over the time, but if you even have like a camper or Winnebago, they're all on 12 volts anyway. And so your solar system would completely recharge that whole system. You just need to get, either a camper and hook it up, or you need to learn how to use it yourself. There's nothing wrong with the system. It's that the false advertising to get you to buy and stuff, but it will do the right thing if you'll just switch over to 12 volts.
Wow.
Yeah, I just saved you $5,000.
Wow.
I get all my batteries. I get marine batteries like I have for my pontoon boat. I get them from Walmart. They come with a 2-year guarantee. And I just put those in an array. And I've got, if you put 10 together, that's 120 volts. All right? So 120 volts, you connect that to a converter or an inverter, and you can now run 110 volt products. You know, and your batteries won't hold that very long and eat it right up, but long enough so you can run a well and you can get all the water you need in an emergency.
Wow. So you're all set if this thing happens or when it happens.
Well, yeah, we think Florida is the only place to be. There's plenty of water. You got to admit that.
That's
And
why we
I
bought
went on my
this
doc.
house because we're on the lake. So we bought this house
Yeah,
only 8 months ago because we are actually across the street from a lake. So that's even better for us because all the bugs and snakes and crocodiles or whatever stay over there across the street, and it's not too far of a
right,
walk for. And then the backyard is a golf course, and they have those water holes, and at
yeah,
least we knew that there would be water around. They have those big old water holes for the
right.
golfers. So we knew there would be. This is exactly why we bought this house. We needed to buy a house on a lake, and then of course it's sold. And I think we'll get an RV camper and just come and hook up to your house. That's what I think we're going to be doing. Yeah, and then we can
Well,
study the
keep
Bible
your
together.
solar.
But no, you can
Don't
really
leave your
find
solar.
some tricks of the trade because these are. I know we're off topic now, but these are nice solar I'm telling you, those big ones. My hands are outstretched. They're taller than me, so they're at least 5 feet 4,
Right
and they're
now.
about 3 to 4 feet. What they're huge, and then there's two of
Yeah.
them, two big old solar panels, and then they hook into this battery thing, and like I said, we just plugged in. We plug it in. You're supposed to be able to roll it around and plug in your fridge and stuff. And like I said, it does a light bulb. So we just got to learn how to mess around with those batteries in there, I bet, too.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't. You're not going to be able to run a whole house 30 kilobytes off solar. You know, you're going to have to back it up with wind. Being on a lake, you can do that. And also, you can put wind and solar panels on a trailer, hook it up to your Winnebago or whatever you're doing, and as you drive down the road, use the wind to collect electricity and store it in your batteries.
How do you know?
We did.
What wind company thing do you use?
I just go to Amazon.com and get whatever's cheapest. And then I go to Advanced Auto Parts to get my 12-volt stuff. Anything in a car is 12-volt. Air conditioner, you name it. And it all runs off a generator in your car. It generates more than enough electricity and does the whole thing on one battery.
Wow. Now your trailer that's hooked up via solar. So you just slap some solar panels on your trailer, and then
Yeah.
what do you have to do?
Okay, we did it on a trailer because you don't need a permit.
Right.
If you put it on your house, you got to get the county to approve it, and they come out and inspect it, and they want to put your house on a separate meter. Is that correct?
Right. Right.
So all your solar power, you collect so much solar power, and it all goes to the power company, and then they sell back power to you,
Oh my
which you gave for free, and you pay the minimum $70 a month or whatever it is in your area. But everything they get over and above what you can use, which they sold back to you at 18 cents a kilowatt, they bought from you at 6 cents a kilowatt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the worst Ponzi scheme in America. The government doesn't want solar power because it's done everything it can to make sure it doesn't succeed. No matter what, you can't get off the grid because you got to pay that $70 minimum a month, whatever it is in your area.
Right.
It varies a little bit, but we even know how to tell people to get off the grid. I get on the air.
Wow. We
Okay?
got to come to your church. This is it. Yeah, I mean, we've really got to come to your church. Oh, here's another thing, Chris. I'm going to just say this out loud. So we bought some weapons to protect ourselves, right? Now, Brian's
Right.
a vet. I'll say this over there because they know it anyway. I mean, it's not a
Yeah.
secret.
I'm a vet too.
The radio preacher man's got to carry some. I mean, you don't know who's after you anymore. So, anywho, so I said, you know what, Brian, if you died, I can't protect myself because I don't have a permit. So we went to a gun. We hired a guy for $35. He was really nice. He runs a class, but we hired him separately. And because I'm kind of a little bit disabled, it's hard for me to walk sometimes. So I didn't want to do it with a whole class, and go out to the range. Because I have good days,
Yeah.
bad days. Some good days, like today, I can do a cartwheel. Some bad days, I'm really bad and I don't want anybody to see me. So I didn't know what kind of day I've had. So anyway, we hired a gun guy, and he was so nice. He's like a World War II vet, and he taught us how to use the 38s. And because Brian, we had all these guns, but we didn't even know how to load them. So the guy said, take them all back. He didn't know how to even freaking load them. He didn't know how to take off the safety. We have all these big guns, little guns, anti-zombie guns. We got it's high-powered this and that, and all the automatic.
Semi-automatic shotgun, right?
Yeah, and he said take them all back and get you just these 38 specials because that's what we practiced with. Very easy to load and unload, and you can get a little preloader so you can do it really fast if you need to. You don't need. So anyway, because it's time to really, for real, get prepared. It's really time, and God, you really are, and you teach your congregation how to do this. You're the coolest pastor around, man. You are awesome. You're an awesome. Oh my God, you're like a cool pastor. I bet you some people might think you're a bit off. Do you think some people think you're a bit off?
Well, they might, but they don't mind using our food bank. And even the police, even though the code enforcement here is so tough, every now and then they get somebody that they pick up, they don't know what to do with, they call us and ask if we put them up at the church overnight. and that's totally against the law. But believe me, I get calls from the sheriff all the time for stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Because they know we're ready. We're ready. We're ready to help, and we're ready to teach you. And, we have one of the guys that's an elder in my church is actually a concealed weapons instructor. We require all the elders in our church to have a concealed weapons permit.
Wow. I'm serious. Yeah. We are really looking for no, I'm serious. We are really looking for somewhere to go. And Brian's jumping through all these stupid hoops, like where he is tonight in Orlando, 3-hour drive for a chaplain to get back into the Army. Now, where do you think is the least likely we should go? Into the Army, right? Navy, Air Force, or Marines. I don't think we should be working for the enemy. Yeah. But
unless you don't mind shooting Christians.
Yeah, but and then trying to get
Brian's a vet.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
Did you say Brian is a vet?
Yeah, he's a vet. And
that's how we started our ministry.
How?
I'm reaching out homeless veterans in the forest. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I walked point for 101st Airborne Recon.
No way. You're the coolest
Absolutely.
There is. You're so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait till you see our church. It looks just like an army post.
Wow. We've got to come down there. I'll tell you what. So we went to church. We went to church on Sunday. We went to Assembly of God. Oh, I shouldn't say what kind. Anyway, trying to get through man's made religion and trying to get a job through them, it's very difficult. And I have books and books on how hard it is. Man has really messed up religion. really has. Brian's anointed. He's an anointed man of God. He's been called at age 17. He never doubted it. That's why he quit his job in these end times, right? I mean, he quit a job, of a really good job, so he could be freed up for God. So we are graduating in December with our masters in chaplaincy, and then they lowered the age, so now he's too old to be a chaplain. So you've got to only be on the reserves, and then you've got to slide on in, or to work with one of these churches as a paid pastor. They want to see all this experience, and they don't count radio ministry, although we touch 2,000 a night more than any church does around here. In a week we can reach 10,000 people on this, and God knows how many. I mean, that's just on Blog Talk. So, how many are listening right now? How many download a year from now? How many download? You know what I'm saying? So they don't count the radio show. They're very old-fashioned. All the elders in the church, and I'm talking almost of every denomination, it's just jumping through man-made hoops, and I won't do it. It really it upsets me. It really it pisses me off, is what it does, because there's a man of God waiting here. He's done all your requirements you want. You've got the masters, you got the chaplain, you got the this, you got the that. What's next? A doctorate? I mean, it really upsets me what man's done to religion and how the devil has used.
Right.
Oh God, we got over how many denominations? He's really split up this body.
And well, that's it. Denominations were ever meant of God. Ever. I left the denominational scene more than 12 years ago, and I don't regret it at all. And we can really focus and do ministry, like reach out to. We go to UFO conferences and share the word of God with people. And in Florida, they used to have UFO conferences all the time, and we went to them for like 6 years. And after 6 years, they went bankrupt. And just because we were there sharing the truth, to tell them who the aliens were, the shady Elohim. They've always been trying to steal the hearts and minds of man and take them away from God. And they actually went bankrupt. They tried to move to Georgia. But there hasn't been a UFO conference in Florida, I would say probably almost 10 years now. And because we drove them out of Florida, just like St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. And instead, people who hate us, they just think we're some kind of UFO church. No, we have outreach to UFO. We tried to bring Jesus to the UFO culture. And just sharing the love of Christ and handing out books and praying with people, they went bankrupt. They couldn't run that game here anymore. Other outreach we could do that we couldn't do as denominational, like we reached the hippies who live in the forest and the veterans. We've reached hundreds and just thousands of veterans in the forest and through our food bank and stuff like that. And we don't care what the church thinks. If there's somebody in a group that needs Jesus, we'll go to them. I mean, if I could get to go to the meetings of the Galactic Federation, I would do it.
Wow. How come more people aren't like you?
Saved.
What happened? How come more pastors aren't like you and Brian and the Hagman? What happened?
Well, I tell you what, I got ran out of denominations for trying to reach.
That's what happened. Yeah.
I've been an exorcist now for a decade and a half. The first book I ever wrote was on Case Files of an Internet Exorcist. And the church will deny it. And yet Jesus, he chewed out the disciples for them shutting down an exorcist. And they said, well, these guys cast out demons in your name, but they're not with us, so we shut them down. And Jesus said, don't shut them down. Those who are for us will never be against us. And so how embarrassed were they when Jesus had to correct the disciples? And yet the modern church today, they won't have anything to do with a guy like me until like their son or daughter, needs to get deliverance. We had a pastor in this town where his son was just in and out of jail constantly, and I met with him and we did deliverance, and he got out of jail. He was doing fine. He just needed some deliverance.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we're at Second Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, and that's the apostate church. At the end of the age, the Lord warned us that there would be an apostasy, a falling away, and then the man of sin would be man of sin, the man of perdition would be revealed. And let me tell you something. We are there. Churches are just a club. It's all about fundraising. You know, where do you ever hear a pastor get on your show and say, look, anything I've ever written, Prayer Dashboard, oh, I forgot to mention that, Prayer Dashboard, which is a guide for exorcists, Fat News of Mark, Case Files, Star Code, Yasha, Satan, Lucifer Decoded. What have they ever offered anything you want for free in a digital copy? It's all about the money. It's all about the cash cow. And you'll find out we don't do that. We never do a fundraiser. Never. You know, we're almost like legalistic about that. But it's not legalism. It's the fact that we've never had to. We always pray, Lord, if you want us to do this, then you'll just provide, right? And then we just move in faith. And we've never had a thermometer on the wall or any kind of a special donation program, you know, going out soliciting funds. If people want to donate, we give them away. If they want to come to church, they want to, we pass the basket. Hey, we only pass the basket on Sunday morning for our faithfuls. We never pass a basket or an offering at any of our workshops, conferences, or Wednesday night, or even our healing and deliverance meetings, which were the first Saturday of every month. Never.
Wow.
I'm 25 years old. And I'm not bragging on me. I'm just telling you, you trust the Holy Spirit. You talk to Him. If He wants you to do something, He'll provide for it.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
Christianity 101. It go back to the first century church. That's what they did. And I don't take a salary either. I've never taken a salary. I get expenses, you know, refunded, but I don't take a salary. And they didn't in the early church either. If you came and stayed 3 days, they considered you a false prophet. The church is not your own personal cash cow. It's not your means to get a new Lexus. It is ministry. It is servanthood of Christ. And you're to reach the lost and the hungry and the poor and the widow and the orphan. And I tell you what, we've done that, and the more we've done it, the more we've been rejected for doing it. But we're not going to stop.
Wow, Chris. This is amazing. Here's what happened. Like I said, we haven't been to church in like 3 years because we basically got booted out because I told the pastor, do you know what time it is? As I was shaking his hand. We were there for 4 years too. We went faithfully, and Brian was a choir boy. Yeah, he was. And so he gave a lot of time to doing that. And of course, we tithe 10% and blah, blah, blah. But I shook the pastor's hand and I said, do you know what time it is? And he said, yeah. And I said, no, do you really know what time it is? And he said, yeah. And he knew, and I knew what I was talking about because he just didn't go far enough. He almost, and then he'd stop. You know what I'm talking about? He'd get, and then he'd stop. And we hoop it and holler it, and then it's like, oh, he didn't say it. And then if you would say something like, yeah, Obama, or yell out something like that, it'd be like, hush, you don't want to offend anybody. Don't offend anybody. You don't say anything. You might offend somebody. Don't say anything about children's services, protective services, taking away kids and using them for whatever, satanic breeding and a bunch of other stuff that goes on with foster care kids that we don't even know about. Don't say anything about that out loud because we got workers that come to our church. You know what I'm saying? Don't say anything bad about abortion because you might have an abortion doctor that is paying 1/2 of the tithe. Don't say nothing bad about abortion. You know what I'm saying? Don't hurt anybody's feelings. No, Jesus hurt a lot of people's feelings. Gee,
Oh
that's
yeah,
it. You got to be
he called
brave.
them vipers. He said they were vipers. They were sepulchres. They were dead men's bones, and he didn't wasn't trying to hide or couch any of that language. No matter where he went, he did that in the temple. This church
Wow.
is so lukewarm. Believe me, the Lord will spit them out of his mouth. And he's
Yep.
about to do that. If we don't get revival, we will perish. If
We're not
people
going to get
don't
revival,
stop
Chris.
playing church, this country is gone.
We're not going to get a big old revival, Chris.
Well, Joel 2:28 says we will. And because of that, I've started a new organization. It's called the New Moral Majority. Last time when Reagan ran for office, he made it because for those same 8 years, there was a group called the Moral Majority.
Right.
And when they were done, he accomplished everything. They shut down. So now we had Romney, who is a moral man, but a Mormon, which is, it's got its complications. But there was no moral Christian right to support these programs and these agendas. Instead, they get up there and they say, well, we believe in life of the mother and rape and incest. That's it. Well, that's abortion. And the bottom line is we have always believed in life of the mother. What mother ever got turned down a tubal ligation before 1973? Show me proof of that. And as far as rape and incest, even Roe versus Wade. Roe was asked to lie by her attorneys and to say she was raped when she wasn't. In fact, if you go to YouTube and listen to her testimony, she'll tell you that she wasn't raped, that she was forced by attorneys to say that, and it so disgusted her, she never got an abortion. And she's had 3 kids. Never
Wow.
did she get an abortion. And that's Roe. On the other side of that is Doe, D-O-E, and Bolton. There's Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton. There were lies involved with that, too. And the whole purpose of that case was to make sure you could kill babies up to the 3rd trimester. I mean, this stuff is so satanic, it's unbelievable. It's like Satan walked right into the courtroom and just snatched 55 million American baby citizens right in front of our Constitution and took away their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the churches all sat quiet.
Wow. So tell me about this New Moral Majority. Where can people find out about that?
If they go to my Facebook, Chris Ward, there's also a Chris Ward Fundamental News. And just like Jerry Falwell had the Moral Majority and he had the Christian Voice newsletter, I formed Fundamental News, which I'm going to interpret the news from a fundamental Christian perspective. Like, let's get to Benghazi. Let's talk about the fact that we don't know exactly what Obama did, but we do know that he lied and he threw the Christians under the bus, and that Christian filmmaker is still in jail. And he shouldn't be in jail, and he should be commuted and pardoned for that. And the only reason Obama did that was a smokescreen, so you and I could never find out the real truth.
Right.
And he threw Israel under the bus 6 times. When he threw the Christian filmmakers, the Coptic Christians, they're now leaving Egypt and Libya in droves, 100,000 last month, because they're under persecution because he named that film as the cause of the death of Stevens.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, great, Christians, yeah, I guess we made the film, I guess we're going to die for it. And he doesn't care. He's still playing hopscotch with General Petraeus. And the fact is, they watched on camera that Ambassador Stevens and those 3 brave men die, and they did nothing. Now, let me add one little thing to this. When I was in Vietnam, we had the Tet Offensive, and the whole North Vietnam and the Gooks and the North Vietnamese regulars and even some TRICOM Chinese soldiers came in and attacked all of Saigon. In the middle of that, they also attacked the U.S. Embassy. Did you know my unit landed on the roof of that embassy in the middle of that attack and war and went in and got everybody in the embassy so they were completely secure and cleared the embassy, saved all the embassy personnel, and then went down the road to Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base, which had been captured, and completely kicked the Vietnamese out of there and took the air base back. We did that under fire, in harm's way. Instead, Obama says, well, we can't put anybody in harm's way. Well, I'm sorry, but you certainly can, because I can remember when they wanted people to go on the roof of the embassy and get volunteers from the 101st Airborne. They had so many guys that volunteered, they had to draw hats. They literally had to draw tags because the guys wanted to go in and help them. You know, we believe you don't leave your comrade behind. And this president, he can't wait to abandon you and then throw the Christians under the bus. So this is why I started Fundamental News, and this is why I'm starting the New Moral Majority, because whoever runs next time, which I think will be real soon, because I personally think Obama will get impeached for what he did in Benghazi, and whoever runs next time, we need to have a moral majority in place like we did for Reagan and get the Christian right perspective out there. Right now, they're all worried about somebody offending the name of Muhammad or Allah. How about Christianity? How come we got crucifixes in jars of urine in the National Endowment for the Arts building in Washington, D.C.? How come our government has institutionalized blasphemy of Christians and Christianity and Christ, but they're running all over the planet apologizing to Muslims? And it's time to change that. And that's why we started it, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm just running out of time.
Wow. Chris, how many people do you think you're going to get to sign up or whatever on this New Moral Majority?
I don't know. Last time when they disbanded right after Reagan retired, they had over 4 million monthly supporters.
You're really the head of this New Moral Majority? You are? Really?
Yes. Nobody else wants to do it. I've looked around. There is no moral majority anymore. It disbanded after Falwell passed.
Wow, so this is amazing.
I'm setting it up right now. I want to have a 501c3 that says the New Moral Majority. And that's what we're doing.
We're
going to make sure that whoever runs next time will have the Christian right behind them.
This is
stand up.
You know, if you really pray and really believe and have faith, which you do, you could probably get millions and millions. If that's God's will. But obviously, you prayed over this. You're doing it. I mean, you're really looking for some big stuff, Chris. You've got a really huge idea or vision.
Well, look at it like this. 56,401,000 plus people voted for Romney. If I had 10% of that, that'd be almost 6 million people.
We've got to get the word
out about
this.
Yes, and I think if we get this thing going and get it pushed, they get a chance to take me out. I'm just going to tell you that we've got to do this if we're going to ever defeat these secular humanistic monsters that kill babies and call it reproductive rights. What about Petraeus' reproductive rights? They don't care about his. Is it because he didn't have a vagina? They got him blasted all over the world because he had an affair. Listen, you either believe in reproductive rights or you don't, but you can't start messing with other people's reproductive rights if that's the whole foundation you have for abortion. See, nobody speaks truth to these people.
Wow. Hey, oh my gosh. Hey, are you going to get business cards made up that say the New Moral Majority?
Well, I've just started this. The Lord just gave me the okay on it yesterday. I've got a banner. My banners, they say New Moral Majority, and they've got an elephant on them. And because we need to push the Christian right in support of any party platform that will reflect our Christian moral values. I'm not pro-Democrat. I'm not pro-Republican. I'm pro-Jesus Christ. And if your party will support the things we believe in, like no abortion, no same-sex marriage, you know, protect our borders, protect Israel, stop throwing Christians under the bus, stop sending money to the Muslim Brotherhood. He sent billions. That's what I'm looking for. And based on the party platforms right now, it looks pretty weak. We're going to have to get that changed, and that's hopefully the influence of the new moral majority will do that.
Wow. Okay, so guys, you hear this. Chris, you got to get on some big broadcasts. You've got to get this out. And you know what I'm saying? You need
Yes,
to get on some radio shows.
Yeah, well, we're putting together the website first and the bank accounts and get the 501c3 filed first, and then we're going to go public. You're the first time I've mentioned it outside of my church.
Amen. Thank you, guys. And this is blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man is the archive of this show. We're live on ChristiansUnited.tk and ChristiansUnited Broadcasting Network.com right now. And all archives of this will be on www.blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man. This has been awesome, Chris. I need to come see you. We are coming in a couple weeks, maybe even this weekend. I need to talk to you personally. So
all right. We look forward.
God, you are like my best friend, my best guest. Chris, you need to go to Future Conference.
No, I don't want to hang with those guys. I'm sorry. I love those guys, but I don't like itinerant ministries that are basically targeted the body of Christ for income. I personally, I've never taken a salary, and I've never been asked to speak at these conferences. And I'm talking about, Bill Suddeth and all the rest. I know you had Russ on the show last time I was on, too.
Yeah.
And I respect him greatly. But these guys and we don't see alike. I'm not lukewarm. I am not going to stand up and color code our government. I am going to speak it the way it is. And if they don't want to be on the same platform with me, that's fine.
Wow, you're awesome, man. You're awesome. You are crazy, courageous, and in your language knowledge, you're just one of a kind. Wow, I'm impressed. But I gotta let you go, Chris, because our next guest is here.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh man, I think we're gonna come down and give you and see you so you can help heal me. So Jesus can heal me, but you know how to do it and pray. Because, in these last days, we're lucky to be here, and I'm proud to be here in these end times. And I think, I'm doing his work, you're doing his work, Brian's doing his work. So we're giving it our all. That's what he asked for. And it's a 24-hour-a-day job, isn't it? Serving the Lord? This is 24 hours a day. Can you hear me? Are you there? Okay. Chris left, I think. Okay, Chris, I'm letting you go anyway. I got another caller. I love you, man.
Hello.
Hey, Mary. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Okay, you guys, this is Mary. Say your last name.
Toko, Mary Toko, independent vaccine researcher for 32 years.
32
That's my last name.
years, and it's at childhoodshots.com. Is it com?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is Mary, and she's been on before. This is a Radio Preacher Man's wife. I announced it at the top of the hour. We're live at ChristiansUnited.tk, ChristiansUnitedBroadcastingNetwork.com. We're live on www.blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man, and that's where you can find all the archives. And then who I'm talking to is Mary from ChildhoodShots.com. She's a vaccine investigator of over 32 years. Go to her website, and she's real nice, and she's really she's unafraid to speak the truth. And wow, Mary, I need to tell you something. Yesterday I went to my doctor, and I hate it's just a game. It's all a game. And of course I got
Uh-huh.
asked if I wanted a vaccine when I was there, and then we went to the drugstore afterwards to fill script, and of course we got asked if we wanted a flu shot or whatever shot is out now about 3 or 4 times when we were even in a store, and I mean they almost run after you. So this is just insanity. And so go ahead, you got the floor for a while. Give us your little spiel.
Well, how much time do I have? And
You have
should we
until
talk about several different? Pardon me?
you have until 8 p.m.
Oh, wow. So good. We've got a good 40 minutes here. Well, I think the first thing people want to know is, number one, who is Mary Tocco? Why is she considered a vaccine expert? And who should listen to me? And I will say that, first of all and foremost, I am a mother of 5 grown adult children. I had the opportunity to look at lots of vaccine information before I had my kids back in the 70s. And even back then, there was enough out there to show myself and my husband that vaccines were probably the worst thing we could be doing to our children. And we made the informed decision not to vaccinate. And then I noticed around me that people were vaccinating their children, and their children were getting sick with ear infections, and they were always on antibiotics, dealing with all kinds of issues, not sleeping well. Then all of a sudden, stomach and gut problems, body rashes. And then as I literally watched the whole autism crisis come gradually before my eyes. I mean, we knew that if we continued to vaccinate a population like we were, that we were going to cause something really bad. We didn't know what it was going to look like, and we didn't know how it was going to show itself, but now we know that we call it autism. In my book, and based on all the years of research and many other physicians, that autism is a vaccine-induced illness or injury. Basically, if you want to boil it down, children who suffer with ADHD, learning problems, depression, hyperactivity, diabetes, asthma, food allergies, Asperger's, all the way to full-blown autism, all of these children in my book are all vaccine injured. And these are all illnesses that were very, very rare back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and now, as of the beginning of the 80s to the mid-80s, they're all, rampant. So our children are very, very sick. People say, well, gosh, Mary, you're not a medical doctor. Again, why should we listen to you? Basically, because I don't have a degree does not mean that I'm not qualified to speak about something that I have been researching passionately for 32 years. There are a lot of great, successful people in the real world who never attended college. And really the saying goes is no one can force you to learn, but no one can stop you from learning. And I have just been, I believe this is my calling before the Lord. I'm grateful that He gave me the knowledge He did before I had my children. As a result, none of my children are vaccinated. None of my grandbabies are vaccinated. And I know hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people who are not vaccinating their children now. And I believe it's because it is obvious that what we're doing is not working. In fact, interestingly enough, when people say, well, you're not a doctor, you're not qualified, according to a Bloomberg study in 2010, the School of Hard Knocks was the number one source of CEOs for the top 500 companies, the top Fortune 500 companies. And basically they say you cannot always find real knowledge in academic life, such as colleges and universities. You get the knowledge they offer or approve, but
Right.
It's not necessarily accurate, right?
Right.
So if I went to a medical school, I would have learned what they want me to learn. I would have learned what they think is right, and I wouldn't be thinking outside the box.
Right.
But because I've been independently researching for 30 years plus, I've looked at everything you can imagine, and from many, many different points of view. And so that gives me a huge advantage. And basically that's why I think people need to at least hear what I have to say. I don't ask people to trust me. The Bible says, trust no man. I say, listen to what I have to say, write down some references, some research, and go look it up on your own. If you question something I have, feel free to email me. I can give you the scientific reference, because obviously in a radio program I don't have a chance to go through every single medical reference I have. But I will say that everything that I share is based on scientific, peer-reviewed articles, physicians, researchers. It's not my opinion. And so a lot of people do refer to me as the Erin Brockovich of the vaccine industry. Do you remember who she is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Erin Brockovich wasn't an attorney, and yet she was able to prove that Pacific Gas and Electric in Hinkley, California, was leaking toxic chromium into the water system, causing people to get sick and die of cancers. And it was her sheer determination that won the largest class action lawsuit of its kind. And so, like Erin Brockovich, she wasn't an attorney. I don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to have a degree to be smart or intelligent. You just have to ask the right questions, right?
Right.
You just have to ask the right questions and go after the answers. And because we have the internet now, there are no excuses. When I started doing this research back in the late 1970s, we didn't have the internet.
Right.
I didn't even have a computer, We had to look in libraries, and I had to order books.
Yeah, do you remember those days? You would go to the library. I have my doctorate in counseling. You're right. You learn what they teach you, and everything's a lie. But I would have a little shopping cart, and remember, you'd have to go to the library, and you'd have to get way up high and put it in your little cart and go check out. Do you remember the old days? And there wasn't the word processing or the internet. So
no.
And you really delved into stuff, and the internet makes it so much faster now. But God,
my
the old days?
Goodness. I sure do. And I remember searching different stores and libraries trying to find different books, and I did hear about Neil Miller, who has authored many, many good vaccine books, and authors like Vera Schreibner from Australia, and Harris Coulter, who wrote several books. He's a PhD medical historian. And of course, that's when the National Vaccine Information Center first started. And I know Barb Fisher personally. And I would have her come to Michigan and do lectures back in the 70s, okay? So I've been at this a long time. And I have watched this huge wave of information hit the internet. And now I'm watching a huge wave of people of all walks of life. No matter what their religious background is, no matter what their medical background is, people are coming out in groves against vaccinations. We have doctors and lawyers and senators and congressmen and sports people and, surgeons, and so many people now are aware of the dangers of vaccinations. And so I know it's been a long and very grueling road, but I do think that we are making a huge impact. In fact, you mentioned before we got going, you mentioned that you were at your doctor's office and then you were at the local drugstore. Well, you know why they're pushing so hard? Because people are no longer listening to their medical doctors and taking their advice. They're no longer just doing it like they used to, and so they're finding better ways to market. They're putting scare tactics on television. They're putting stories out. It was quite shocking. Several weeks ago, the Parade magazine put out an article about a little girl back in 2009 who had meningitis. And they go on to say that she almost died. And they go on to say that it's all the unvaccinated. But one of the things they failed to say in this article is whether or not she was fully vaccinated. And guess what? I'd be willing to bet she was fully vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they don't tell you this. And then they take this one story of one girl who, by the way, almost died of meningitis, and they blow it all out of proportion and make it sound like every kid out there is at threat of meningitis. What they fail to tell you is that meningitis looks just like polio. And after the second vaccine for polio was introduced, it was causing polio. And so our government and the Canadian government told all of the medical people they changed the criteria for what polio was. And if you don't believe me, look up the
Wow.
Cutter event. The Cutter event. It went on in the 1950s, I think it was 56, 57 is when the first vaccine that came out was Salk. It caused the Cutter event where, I think it was 70,000 children ended up with polio after his vaccine. So they came up with the Salk vaccine, or the Sabin vaccine, excuse me. And then polio was breaking out all over the place, so they decided to change the criteria, and they call it non-viral meningitis. So now when we hear of babies having meningitis, you have to wonder why they're having meningitis. Because meningitis was very rare. Years and years and years ago, it was so rare for a child to have aseptic or bacterial meningitis. Now it's common, and I believe it's in the vaccinated population. But anyway, that's just a couple of facts that people don't know about, and they certainly can look it up on the internet now, and they can look and they can see for themselves that these are real incidents that took place. And I will tell you, I had a wonderful colleague in Canada who sent me the official document when the Canadian government did what our government did. It was an official document from the health department, from the Queen of England, telling all the doctors to no longer call it polio, reclassify it as non-viral meningitis.
Wow.
So it's a fact, folks. This little government of ours is not out to protect you. They're out to make money. They're out to protect big pharma. In fact, what I really think the agenda is they're out to destroy the families of this country. A strong America is not an easily controlled America. An America that is dumbed down, that can't read or write, that is so preoccupied with trying to feed their families and trying to take care of sick kids that they can't pay attention to what's going on. And I really, really believe that's what's really behind all of this.
Wow. Wow. You know, you said a mouthful there. Let me tell you a personal thing. I think Brian may have shared it. Brian was in the Army, and before he went overseas, this is a bad thing about being in the military. Oh my God. Before he went overseas, they gave him tons of shots.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have a choice. He was a soldier. And
Right.
you don't have a choice. 6 months later, he got pregnant. They got pregnant with their son. And David has Asperger's. And I'll tell you, I've known this kid. Brian's my second marriage, so he's not mine. David's not my child.
Right.
But I love him like my own. But I'll tell you what, I met him when he was 12. The kid's now 20 because I've been with Brian 8 years. And he was, oh my God, the Asperger's is a handful. That's why they got divorced. That's one of the reasons why Brian and first wife got divorced. These kids are, oh my God, it's enough to, if you don't have a strong marriage, you're not going to make it. You know, he's not even my kid, and oh my God, these Asperger kids they're very, very difficult. You've got to keep in your mind all the time, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. You know, they just, oh my God, Asperger and poor autistic children. I mean, why is the government soft killing, Mary? I guess money. Why don't they just kill us? I mean, this soft kill stuff, it's really not fun. I mean, I think I'm a victim myself.
There's money to be made. If you're dead and in the ground, you're not going to produce money. And so it does them no good to kill us right now. What it does do is it pays to keep us sick and to extend our life and to keep us going. It keeps the whole sick system going. Do you know that in Israel, I believe it was in the 70s, there was a doctor strike, and guess what happened? Mortality rate dropped, like more than 50%. I think it was several months. It was people can look it up, Israeli and doctor strike. It was a several-month strike, and guess who was really upset? the morticianers.
Wow.
They didn't have anyone to bury. Yes. And so it has been well documented that when doctors go on strike, and this has happened in numerous countries, the mortality rate drops. So we know that a lot of what they do makes us sick and keeps us sick and causes us to slowly die. In fact, if you think about all the people in nursing homes, they're basically being preserved with drugs and chemicals. Very few of them have quality of life.
It's awful.
It is. It's
Nursing
absolutely
homes are
terrible.
awful.
I would rather be put out to pasture, you know. But
It's awful.
You know, it really is.
They keep people
so
alive, Mary. It's awful the way they treat old people. They keep them alive and they get them on all these drugs, and they're just laying there and they're in half comas, and it's awful. And it's awful. And even when they're in a coma, they still give them drugs. They just inject it. It's awful.
Right. Get paid well to do so. I know. So we got to realize, and I'm talking to the Christians here especially. Number one, where is your faith in the human body? Where is your faith in the body that God created? You know, modern medicine and science wants us to think that we were born without an immune system, that without vaccinations, we can't live, and that everything the body does is negative. If you run a fever, it's a bad thing. If you have inflammation, it's a bad thing. If you have high blood pressure, it's a bad thing. If you have high cholesterol, it's a bad thing. If your numbers for your liver are up, it's a bad thing. Everything that medical science does goes completely against the human body when it's trying to do what it needs to do to keep you healthy.
Right.
So as long as your faith and confidence is in a system that does not respect the human body or the creator who made it, then you are going to suffer and its consequences. And, you know, I'll tell you, sometimes I see injured children and I see people who are really, really stuck on medication and drugs and dependent on it. And there are times when I don't feel so sorry for them because you know why? They get what they deserve in many ways. And I know that sounds cruel. And I know that sounds very, really un-Christian-like. I don't ever want anyone to suffer or be in pain or to have an autistic child. But the information is so out there now. It's so readily available. And we are called to question the world we live in. The Lord says that we suffer due to lack of knowledge. And we must ask and constantly renewing our mind. And yet this is not what's going on. The Christian community is just as guilty as the non-Christian community. They go to their doctors, they deliver their children like sacrifices to be injected with multiple vaccinations without even questioning, gee, could this harm my children? Or, gosh, could any of these things in the vaccine cause infertility in my children or cause cancer in my children? And so really, right now, if you're listening and you're part of the Christian community, which I pray you are, I hope that you'll stop and think about what I say and really stop and think, did God make a mistake when he created your body? How did our grandparents and all of the people from Adam and Eve forward manage to live on the earth without constantly getting injected with a vaccine or a drug? Huh? And see, we got to wake up. We have to have a brainwashing because our brains have been completely put to sleep through programming on the television, through programming. Wherever we go, we're getting programmed, whether it's the FDA, the EPA, the Institute of Medicine, your local pediatrician, the medical schools, the government. They're all programming us to sit back in apathy and do nothing. And that's why our children are so sick. I'm going to talk a little bit about autism specifically now because it is a huge, huge crisis. Right now, chronic illness in our kids is so bad that an author, a professor of pediatrics at University of Toronto says, there are those who would predict that in this generation of children, the parents are going to be the first to outlive this generation of kids if this trend isn't reversed. What trend is Dr. McCrindle thinking about or talking about? He's referring to the chronic conditions our kids suffer with. It's not just autism, which is 1 in 88. It's actually worse. It's ADHD, asthma, eczema, depression, allergies, food allergies. Kids can't even eat food anymore. Diabetes. They have all these problems going on. And basically, a lot of medical science will say, oh, well, it's better diagnosis. It's a better expanded definition of autism, and the numbers haven't changed in years. We're just smarter now, right? Well, give me a break. That would mean that right now we should have about 2 million undiagnosed adults walking around with autism. And guess what? We don't have it. This disease is affecting children between the ages of 3 and 13. And so right now, if autism has been around for a long, long time, we would have 2 million people above the age of 20 walking around, trying to get jobs, trying to live in society, and they'd be on the street. So that right there is proof that it's not better diagnosis. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. And when you think about it, we do 3 times more vaccines than any other modern country. And yet we have sick kids. That tells us right there that we should stop and take a look at what we're doing and analyze it. There's a wonderful quote, and basically what it says is that we have got, I'm going to find it, evidence suggests that we need to stop and examine the current accepted practices in our country and take a closer look to see where we may be failing, even if what we discover is not pleasant. And that's what's going on. I want to mention my website, childhoodshots.com, but I also want to mention I have a new landing page where people can go, they can order my DVD, and they can also get a free vaccine report. And in this vaccine report, I cover the 4 main reasons why people vaccinate, and I dispute them. So go to vaccinedvd.com, sign up for your free report, and please consider buying my DVD that's called Are Vaccines Safe? Because I'm on a mission to reach people, and I can't reach people without your help.
Wow. You know, I remember, Mary. Oh, I feel so awful. I had 4 kids, and all were like 9 months apart. Like I'd have a baby, and I'd get pregnant right away because I want to have them all and get it done with. But they're 20, 21, 22, 23 right now. But anyway, okay. This is awful, but I'm going to admit it. Yeah, I didn't know any better. I did not know. And I was a professor of psychology, of all things. And I never heard anything about vaccines or mercury or anything. They didn't. And I was a doctor of heads. You know, I should have known, but they don't teach you. So like you said,
No, they don't.
Yeah, and I mean, before you leave the hospital, I think they give them some sort of shots, and then at 6 weeks and 1 month and 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and 12 months and 15 months and 18 months, because I would just take all 4 in sometimes in my arms, because they, you know, I had them so close and together, like 2 never walk. You know, one would be newborn and one would be 12 months old, and then one would be like 2 years old. And so I had 3 in my arms, and I'd give them to the doctor, and I'd say, here you go. And they'd basically line them up and inject, you know, Dominic needs these 8 shots. And it's a lot of shots. I mean, they do it at, like, well, you're the expert. What are the ages that they require all these shots now? Well, they say they require them for school. They trick you.
Right.
You don't have to be vaccinated.
Just, you know, you do not have to be vaccinated to go to most schools in the country. I have 5 children that were never vaccinated. They've been in local schools, Christian schools. I homeschooled majority of the years, but then they went on to college, universities, from Michigan to South Carolina. You just have to know how to sign the forms or how to challenge them. Right now, all of the schools are pushing vaccines really hard. They say, oh, you've got to have your children vaccinated or they can't get in school. If you go to my website, childhoodshots.com, and under the first bar that says vaccines, the first thing that will show is vaccine law. And I have a map of the whole United States. And there are basically 3 exemptions available for each state. Some only have 1 or 2. But on there, you'll find out what your exemptions are. And, you know, it's unfortunate that so many parents like you were not warned ahead of time. But again, you can't blame yourself, because back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the resources. It wasn't in the news all the time. Now it's a little bit different. We've got resources at our fingertips. You've got hundreds and hundreds of sites that are against vaccinations. You've got the television talking about the autism and the vaccine controversy. You have it in the news all the time. If people just opened up their ears a little bit, they would hear it and became aware of it. They would hear it, and they can go and do the research. My whole thing is you better just make an informed vaccine decision, or your children are going to end up as victims. You know what? Your children did not get what these kids are getting. They now have 69 doses by the time a child is 6. Okay?
Wow.
That's huge. It's gotten much worse. And, of course, that's including the Gardasil vaccination and the new flu vaccination. And now they're pushing the DPAT shot all over again, asking teenagers to get it and young adults to get it. Why? Because if they got it when they were younger, it does not protect. And by the way, people, none of the vaccines protect. None of them give you immunity. None of them do. What they do, they suppress your body's ability to express the disease or the illness. And we do not know the long-term consequences of this. We do know that when you allow your children to get normal infectious illnesses, that it builds their immune system and actually helps them to become a stronger, healthier adult. We do know that children who have normal infectious diseases are less likely to have asthma, are less likely to have cancers, less likely to have diabetes. I mean, there's a lot of information out there now about the benefits of having natural immunity. But, of course, your pediatrician isn't going to tell you this. And on my website, Childhood Shots, along the top, I have natural immunity. And if you look underneath there, I've got lots of articles written about how the immune system develops in a new baby. It starts while it's developing in the mother, by the way, and it gets stimulated as soon as the baby's born. And I go into all that, but how to boost a child's immune system naturally, ways to boost them, like through herbs and natural things. I've got tons of information on there. And, you know, foods to eat while breastfeeding, foods not to eat while breastfeeding, foods to eat when pregnant. And really, it's this website, which is in the process still, is going to be a wonderful resource of information for, you know, parents regarding all topics. So people will be sure to go there and look at some of the other articles that I posted. Now, I will tell you, I am currently writing all of my new vaccine articles, and there's about 20 or 30 new ones that are going to be uploaded soon. They're not up there yet. So when you go under the vaccine section, it's not complete. Oops, sorry about that. But that's my darn internet. But anyway, there is a lot of good information on the website, even though it's not finished yet. And I encourage people to check it out. So,
you're
do you want me
really
to
passionate, Mary. My God, you're really
am.
passionate. How come you
I'm
got
on a
involved
mission.
in this?
It started back in the 70s when I started to look at it before I got my own children vaccinated and decided not to vaccinate because I really believed it went completely against the human body. And then, like I said, I watched this chronic illness crisis. And not only that, but the cancers in our children. Do you know that cancer was so rare when I was growing up? It was so rare. And now we have a cancer wing on every hospital. I just today, I was, actually a couple of days, I was flying on an airplane, and I opened up a magazine on the airplane, and there's this hospital boasting. In fact, I threw it away. I'm going to pull it right out now because it was boasting. This is what they were saying, and I was shocked. And I'll tell you where it is. It was Cincinnati Children's Hospital, okay?
Yeah, that's
And
where I
it
had my
says-
kids, by the way.
Well, guess
Children's
what?
Hospital in
It says,
Cincinnati.
Yep, well, guess what they're boasting about? It says,
What?
quote, since 2007, we have performed more transplants for pediatric liver tumors than any program in Northern America. And then it says, why? My question to them is, why are children having liver tumors, cancerous liver tumors? And why do kids need a perfectly good liver that God created them to have? Why do they need it transplanted? What are we doing to our children in this country, where we have hospitals boasting about their liver transplant record for infants and children. That's why I'm passionate. Enough is enough. We have to be willing to stop and realize that there is an agenda out there, and I believe it's an attack, and that Satan is behind it, and he is attacking the family from every avenue. And the fact that our boys are the ones who, 5 out of 6 kids who are autistic are boys. What does that tell us? That the boys are being attacked again, just like they were in the time of Herod. No different. Our boys are being attacked. The difference is they end up, you know what the common treatment for autism in this country is? Drugs.
What?
That's their only solution. More drugs. And even though we know that if you get your children to the right kind of physician, the right kind of holistic doctor, we can begin to help these kids recover from autism. But do you think that's going to be on the evening news or in the parenting magazine or anywhere else for that matter? No. Okay, so there is an agenda against our children.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. David had to take medicine. Oh my God, we were so stupid. Yep. I mean, he was. Oh my God, they put these poor kids on antipsychotics, and antidepressants, and oh my God. And then so the kid, you're right, the kid's in a stupor for a couple hours, and then when they start acting up, oh, it's time for another dose. And and then the kids get addicted to the drugs. And I mean, every drug has an addictive quality. God only knows what they really put in these drugs. Anyway, I mean, we're off drugs. We do nothing in this house except for we drink clay and we eat, like you said, natural herbs, and we eat healthy stuff. And we have the books now, and we have the information of when you get inflammation, what should you do? Like we'll do play packs or poultices, and don't bring any of this to your regular doctor though, because especially under Obamacare. Tell us what Obamacare is going to do to us, Mary.
Well, I am so concerned about this so-called healthcare system he's created or that he's implemented. It's not healthcare, folks. It's sickness care. It will not keep you healthy. It will force you to give money to their system whether you like it or not. Like myself, for example. I have 5 grown children. My oldest is 32. She is now a chiropractor in South Carolina. My youngest is going to be 20. We never, ever once owned a prescription card. We never had one of those little plastic cards that they call health insurance. Never, to this day.
Wow.
Now, I will tell you, yes, I would rather pay cash out of my pocket for anything that happens. And in all the years that I raised my children, we only had 2 visits to the hospital for broken bones, which we paid cash for. And so my whole output between having my babies born at home with midwives and the 2 doctor visits at the hospital, we maybe had at most, I'm not joking you, maybe $5,000 of output for medical care in over 20 years. Actually, over 30 years, because my oldest daughter's 32 now. So it's not health insurance, it's sickness insurance. It's really about getting every American in this country to cough up more money to put into a broken healthcare system that can't deliver health. Americans are sicker and unhealthier than almost any country, any modern country in the world. We have a bigger problem than Canada for obesity. We have 25% of our children are on psychotropic drugs. And, these are antidepressants and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And 25% of our children are on these drugs. Do you know they say once you get on them, it's very, very difficult to get off of them?
It is.
And once you get on them, at the same period of time as we've been putting all these kids on these drugs, including teenagers, we've seen homicides, school shootings, random acts of violence, mental illness and suicide skyrocket right along with it. So this is what we're going to get more of. We're going to get more of what we already have, unless you learn how to promote your health naturally from day to day, if you learn how to have more faith in the human body than in that little pill or potion that the druggist gives you, you see, we're going to have to relearn how to take care of the human body. And that means taking responsibility. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They'd rather just pop a pill. You know? They would much rather just go to their doctor who gives them an antibiotic or something, and they take it and just forget about taking care of their body. And because their pain goes away or their discomfort goes away, they think they're healed when they're not healed. The problem's going to come back again because the cause has not been addressed. And this is what's wrong with this whole healthcare system, is it does not address the cause, it addresses the symptoms. So when we get this healthcare system, we're basically going to get more of what we already have, which is a broken system.
Wow. And it's going to be pushed on us. And Mary, if we don't get it, aren't we going to get fined?
Yes. And, again, I don't have all the answers because it's scary.
Oh, my God.
I don't know. It's wrong. It's really wrong to force me to buy something I don't want. Just like it's wrong to force someone to vaccinate that doesn't want them. I don't have the answers. We need to really hit our knees, and we really need to start praying and asking for God's intervention here. And Christians need to become more actively involved and stop just sitting back and assuming someone else is going to take the role and do it for you.
I know.
What really gets me upset is when people hear the truth and they're set free from the truth, but they don't tell the truth to anyone else.
Yeah.
I speak all around the country. I speak all around Canada. I speak on radio programs. I have another one tomorrow, 2 hours long tomorrow night. I did 3 radio programs last weekend. I have my own radio program on Saturdays. I am screaming it as far and as loud as I can. And yet I know for a fact that people hear my message, but they don't want to offend their neighbor, or they don't want to offend their pastor's wife, or they don't want to offend their sister who's a nurse. And they sit back and they allow people in their own circle to continue to do these things that we know will make them sick and will hurt their children. And so I'm calling on people to get bold, become bold with the truth. And a good place to begin is My Vaccine DVD. And people say, oh, well, you're going to make money off of this? I'm like, you're darn right. This is what I do for a living. And I've got to make a living doing this, or I'm not going to eat.
Right.
And how can you put a value on information that has taken me thousands and thousands of hours to put together? I make it easy. You plop in a DVD in your living room and sit down and have your popcorn, and you can watch all the research that I put together for you real easy. And
yes.
So I encourage people, go get my free vaccine report, copy it off, send other people to my website and get the free vaccine report, and then purchase my DVD, share it with your neighbors and your friends and your family members. And even if you're medically oriented and it sounds like I'm crazy, watch it and say a prayer before you watch it, that the Lord would have you see the truth that might be in it.
People do line up. People do get. Isn't that crazy too, to be given shots at a drugstore? That's just at a store by like an 18-year-old
Yep.
who chases you around. Hey, here's a flu, because they get a bonus or $2 extra or whatever they get. I mean, they have competitions for who can give the most shots. I mean, they're not even.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
and do you know that I heard from a mom?
And what is in these vaccines?
Pardon me?
What is in vaccines?
Oh my gosh, you ready for this?
Yeah.
You ready for this? I encourage people to get your pens and paper out, because I'm going to give you some stuff that no one else is going to tell you about. And you're going to be absolutely shocked. And you're going to understand more than most physicians. We're going to talk about toxic vaccine ingredients. All vaccinations contain something called adjuvants. You can look it up on Google. It's ADJUVANTS. Adjuvants go back to the 20s, and what they do is they turbocharge the immune reaction in the body so that the body continues to throw out those white blood cells and respond to the viral part of the vaccine. Unfortunately, adjuvants respond to it causes your body to respond to everything in the vaccine, not just the viruses or bacteria. So what are some of the common adjuvants thrown in vaccines? First of all, They are all variable in how they affect the immune system. Some people have okay reactions. Some people have hyperactivation of the immune system, which ends up in autoimmunity. Some people go into anaphylactic shock. Some people have food allergies. Some people have body rashes. Some babies scream their head off all night and can't sleep, and mom doesn't know what to do for them. Okay? These babies are responding to adjuvants in the vaccines, most likely. Wow. But the most common one is alum or aluminum hydroxide or aluminum phosphate. Other ones include oil emulsion products that are also made from bacteria endotoxins, cholesterol, fatty acids, paraffinic, and vegetable oils. Some of the oil emulsions are complete or incomplete oils, glycerin monosterate, mineral oil. One that is in the vaccines and is causing the peanut allergies in this country, emulsified peanut oil. It's referred to as adjuvant 65. Mineral compounds, okay? There's aluminum. Now let's just talk aluminum alone. Almost every medication, over-the-counter, prescription, or vaccination contains aluminum. So this is not just limited to vaccines. This is anything you get over-the-counter medication could have this in it as well. But usually with over-the-counter drugs, you eat it. With vaccinations, we're injecting it. There's a huge difference in how the human body responds, okay? I've only got a couple more minutes. I want to let you know, anyone who wants this research can email me from my website, but the only study done on aluminum, one study done on aluminum that injected into infants, said that anything between 10 and 20 micrograms can be toxic to a newborn baby. The first vaccination we give is a hepatitis B vaccine. It contains 250 micrograms. By the time a child goes in for their first well baby visit, they're going to get approximately 1,200 plus micrograms of aluminum. In fact, they're going to get 1,225 micrograms of aluminum at their 2-month shots. By the time a child is fully vaccinated, they're going to get about 4,925 micrograms of aluminum. Anything over 20 is considered toxic. Okay? We now have a new syndrome that is coming out in the journals. The Journal of Autoimmunity calls it ASIA. Specifically, it's autoimmune syndrome induced by adjuvants. So there you go. They've created a problem, and now they have a syndrome for it. Now, let's talk about the trace amount of mercury they say is in vaccines, which they claim is safe. First of all, there's two different kinds of mercury, primarily. There's methylmercury, and then there's ethyl mercury. The mercury that is in fish or that is in mother's milk, they say breast milk can contain mercury, or that is in the air, okay, that is a different type of mercury than what's in the vaccines. That is called methyl mercury. The kind that's in vaccines is ethyl mercury with an E. The National Institute of Health was talking about ethyl mercury. This is what they said. Ethyl mercury is more toxic than methyl mercury because it crosses the blood-brain barrier quicker and converts to inorganic mercury. This inorganic mercury is the most difficult to excrete and stays in the brain longer and at higher levels. Also, when you eat mercury in fish, you have a gastrointestinal system that is equipped to chelate the heavy metals out and release them from the body. When you inject, you are bypassing that normal protection, leaving all of the organs and tissues vulnerable to whatever is in that vaccine, including the aluminum and the mercury. So to say that the same, when they say this, that when a baby gets aluminum in a vaccine, it's just like the aluminum in mother's breast milk. I'm sorry, it's not. When a mother eats something with aluminum, her body chelates it out. If trace amounts get in her breast milk, the baby's body chelates it out. It's totally different than when you bypass the mouth and the digestive tract and you inject it into the muscle. It gets into the bloodstream. It circulates around the human body, exposing all the organs, tissues, and cells to whatever's in that vaccine. It is not the same. But do you see how Satan gets in there and deceives people? He uses all these brilliant doctors and scientists to confuse and to soften the blow. So parents, please don't be deceived. Also, one more thing about mercury before I have to leave you. The trace amount of mercury they tell you is safe is not safe. Again, methyl mercury found in water the only allowable amount of trace mercury in water is 2 parts per billion with the B. 2 parts per billion. Anything that contains 200 parts per billion in liquid renders it a toxic hazard. The vaccination, the flu vaccine that they give infants, contains 25,000 parts per billion, and the adult vaccination can contain 50,000 parts per billion. If that doesn't shock people into waking up, if that doesn't shock you into waking up, then I think you're already brain dead from vaccines. Seriously.
Oh my God. You know what? Oh my God. I feel so bad. I'm so guilty.
Well, don't. Please don't. You know what it is? And that wasn't my role. That wasn't my purpose. I don't want to make you or anyone else feel guilty about what you didn't know. You know, we can't be held accountable for what we don't know. But what we do know now, from this moment forward, I believe God will hold us accountable. And he also wants us to share what we know with others around us, or he will hold us accountable. So don't feel bad.
You know how indoctrinated our children are, Mary? I told all my kids, because now they're getting to be in the 20s and getting ready to have babies and married and whatnot. And I told them, guys, they know that we're the radio preacher man and we do talk about this kind of stuff. I said, guys, do not get, first of all, that shot for cervical cancer. Forget it. Don't do that.
Right.
And also, please do not vaccinate your children, whatever you do. And they know we drink clay, and I give clay as a present. And allicin, the active ingredient in garlic, which cures megabugs, by the way. And I give them all the dare to prepare. I give them all this kind of stuff. Your kind of videos, I give them as gifts.
Right.
This is a good gift, you guys, to give away for like Christmas or whatever. It would be her video.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a really good gift.
You're absolutely right.
But the kids have been so indoctrinated through school for all these years and so freaking brain dead. They're like, "Oh, you're crazy." Even my kids who are Christian and they are exposed to what I do. So it's really hard to break through because they are like zombies, the kids.
I know.
The 20-year-olds.
Let me give your audience something to take with them that they will be able to envision. I want everyone to close their eyes and hold up a beautiful red apple. And this apple, of course, is a beautiful apple that God created, right? If I took that apple and I injected aluminum, trace amounts of mercury, thousands of bacteria, thousands of viruses, and some phenol and maybe some formaldehyde, which are common things found in all the vaccines, would you eat that apple?
Absolutely not.
And of course, that's right. And people go, well, no, it would make me sick. I would probably get sick and throw up and be toxic. You bet. Why is it okay to inject our bodies, especially our infants, with an apple containing phenol, aluminum, and they use aborted baby tissue to develop a lot of these vaccines. And another thing, people don't get this. People don't know this. They're not letting people know. It is a fact. The MMR vaccine, the hepatitis A, the chickenpox vaccine are all produced with aborted baby tissue cell lines.
Oh, my God!
Yes.
No way. Say that again.
Yes. The vaccinations, and I'll tell you, the hepatitis A, the MMR, the rubella vaccine, chickenpox vaccine, and they're even talking about some of the flu shots, are now produced on aborted baby lung tissue referred to as human diploid tissue. And people can go to novaccine.com for a complete list. But the Pope recommended that Catholics avoid the vaccine produced with or containing aborted tissue. So right there is part of your religious exemption. But people, we've got to stop and realize vaccines come
90
from the
seconds
who would love to destroy our families. Period. It's that simple. There is not one vaccination on the face of the earth that produces proper immunity, that protects us from diseases or illnesses. They suppress the immune system. They cause ongoing problems within the human body that lead to chronic illness, as well as cancers. There's the stuff that they're putting in these vaccines, they're bioengineering them now. I call it Franken science. They're bioengineering them in laboratories And only the good Lord knows what they're putting in them, because I don't trust a single one of them. And we do know, too, by the way, and I can document this, that they're using vaccinations to cause infertility in women and men across the world. So
yeah, this gay thing has gotten out of control. There's something that they're doing to make us bisexual and gay. There's way too many gay.
It is. Mm-hmm.
They're
absolutely.
Messing up.
I totally agree with you. I think it's not only that, but it's the food chemicals and stuff. But I do believe that they are causing. That's why, I'm reevaluating this whole idea that, gay people, that it's a sin, and I'll tell you why.
I'm reevaluating that too.
Because you know why? They're born, a lot of them born this way, and it's because mankind has screwed with our DNA and our genetics so bad that children are now born where they have both male and female internally out of balance, hormonally off balance, and we cannot judge them so harshly. They have frogs now that are being born with two heads. We have three-headed snakes. We have amphibians that are being born with male and female parts. So we are creating this problem in society. But I do believe it's because the devil would like to see us all injured. He would like to see the family falling apart. And I do believe that they're trying to reduce population, and I can pretty much prove it. This is no longer a theory. It is a fact that they are trying to reduce population, and this is a great way to do it. In fact, Bill Gates, if people really want to look, they can go to Bill Gates, pull him up on YouTube, talking about fertility and vaccinations or population control, and you can pull him up saying the best way to reduce population is by better vaccination.
Wow. Mary, we got to get going, but I wish you would, you need to tell the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines to stop injecting our 17 and 18-year-old boys and young men and women.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Can you somehow target the oh my God. I mean,
you know what? They're going to do what they're going to do. There's no stopping them. Just like most of the physicians right now, every time somebody goes into the military and they are put in Afghanistan, 95% of them are given a psychotropic drug right away so that they can cope until they come home addicted on it. And that's why so many of them are committing suicide and having issues. But they're not going to. No. We have to get on our knees, and we have to start in every community in this country needs to have me come out and speak in their churches, in their schools, in their mommy groups, in their autism groups. Get the chiropractors involved, get the homeopaths and natural people, the midwives. We have got to start doing this in a community from the foundation of each community, and I'm willing to do that.
Wow. Thank you, Mary, for coming on. Give your website again and tell them how to get your DVD.
Go to childhoodshots.com. You can order from that, or you can go to vaccinedvd.com, and you can order it from there, and also you can get a free vaccine report. So thank you so much for having me on. God bless you and take care. Thank you. I cover your prayers. Thank you.
I love you, Mary. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And in that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. And in that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. And they will say the things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent. Yeah, they will say things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away.
Hey folks, Radio Preacher Man for Self-Reliance. These are hard times, and it could get harder. You've seen the droughts, you've seen the floods nationwide, worldwide even. So 7 billion people got to eat. So don't be left out with nothing to eat. Get yourself some victuals put back on the shelf. Now I got a product I want to tell you about. It's called Shelf Reliance, and this is good food. You can use it on a regular basis. Get you some dehydrated food, and you got some easy prep meats. They got vegetables and fruits dehydrated, ready to eat as a snack, or you can reconstitute them for your cooking needs. You can get grains, bread, milk, eggs. It's a full line of food products, even dessert, such as ice cream and fudge brownies. Hello. So check it out at radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com. That's radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com. It's also a wonderful business opportunity for those of you looking to do something with your lives on the side, or instead of being unemployed, or whatever your situation is, brothers and sisters.
Things are not okay right now. Oh,